morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone, wherever you may be tuning in today's episode from around the globe. We are here at the 2024 ARA show in New Orleans, Louisiana, and I'm absolutely pumped and super excited to not only be sitting down with today's guest, but also to be back here in the United States for an absolute jam-packed schedule over the coming days, sitting down with some absolute icons, legends, and leaders of the global rental industry. This is episode number 3 of our 2024 ARA show campaign, and I'm accompanied by who I would consider a newly gained friend over the past 12 months. The 60th President of the American Rental Association, 2023 Board Chairman of the ARA, owner of the second generation 57-year-old rental store Delux Rentals based in Ypsilanti, Michigan, husband to his amazing wife Susan, an avid snorkeler, goat trail hiker, and bourbon connoisseur. I'd like to welcome Scott Irwin on the Rental Journal. Scott.
What an introduction. Thank you, Michael. I consider you to be a friend too, and we loved our time with you in Australia.
Mate, obviously I first met yourself and your wife Susan last year in Orlando at the 2023 ARA show. After telling me that you'd be heading over to Australia in May for the 2023 show in Sydney, discovering your passion for snorkeling, we stayed in touch, both you and Susan travelling all the way up to our home in central Queensland to experience a small slice of Australia, the Great Barrier Reef, walking through our rental store and experiencing everything quintessentially Australian, from meat pies to crocodiles, chicken palmies, and for all the Aussies listening in at home, the famous Bundaberg rum was definitely consumed. Scott, thank you very much for your time, the many laughs that we shared, you coming all the way up to our home in Queensland during your stay in Australia. Scott, what did you find most interesting about the Australian rental market, the HRA show in Sydney, and highlights from your trip in Australia?
The most interesting thing that I found was that the industry is basically the same as it is in the United States. I mean, it's just the United States has got more people, a bigger population, probably a little more diverse equipment base in each store. But going through, we went to a lot of Kennard stores, and looking at the inventory he's got, it's very similar to the inventory we've got. Their procedures were pretty much the same. The processes were the same. Everything was pretty much the same as it is in America, which surprised me a little bit. I don't know why, but it seemed like he had a little bit more concrete breaking equipment, so maybe Sydney's got a lot of rock in it or something that they need to remove to do construction. But traveling to Queensland was just outstanding, and it was great to see such a niche organization as yours that does just air conditioning and heating and does it well, and you can make money doing it. I mean, it was interesting to see that, because I'm not sure how much that we have in the United States. Maybe we have more than I know about, but I had never heard of anybody, heating and cooling mine shafts to do maintenance on equipment, and you've really found a way to make that work for you. And that was very interesting too. So I learned a lot. I loved Australia.
No, mate, we loved having you in Australia as well. Scott, Delux Rentals was founded by your father Bill and mum Donna back in 1966. A whopping 57 years in business, remaining in the same location since 1978. With yourself and Susan taking over the business in 2014, Scott, to start us off, how did you first become involved? And it'd be great to give an audience an overview of your journey so far in the equipment rental industry.
Well, I started young. I started when my dad couldn't find help and needed somebody to come and clean equipment. Back then, it was not a problem I think I was 10 years old when I started cleaning equipment for him. And it was lawnmowers and rototillers and some of the smaller things. They would literally run home to get something to rent. One day somebody came in and needed an iron and an ironing board. And my mother literally went home and got her personal iron and ironing board, and they rented it. And they did that with TVs, and they did that. I mean, it was a lot different back then. They rented exercise equipment and TVs and, whatever they asked for, they would find. And it's kind of morphed into something a little different now. We moved from our original location in 1978, and that allowed us to have much more space. We've got a lot more equipment storage room. We have a lot more equipment. We had a lot more just space and building size to do bigger things. And it's kind of morphed into light equipment, light being mini skid loaders and excavators that are under 10,000 pounds. But we're pretty much a general rental store now. We do some homeowner stuff, but about 75% of our business is done with small contractors and landscapers. And it's still evolving. We're kind of moving out of the homeowner stuff and moving more into the landscaper, small contractor, and it's things that go out and stay out. It doesn't turn quite as fastly, so we're not seeing as many people, but the equipment stays out longer. So it's a little easier on our staff. It's a little easier on everybody to get that weekly rental instead of a 4-hour rental on something.
So take me back in time to 1966. I do remember that story that you told me, that when your parents initially started the business, they would on some days drive back to your family home, grab anything they could and put it out for rent. But what did Delux Rentals specifically look like in the early days, and the initial products and the customer base, and that you've evolved it now into that more homeowners and general contractors in 2024?
Yeah, we have. And originally, I guess the original location for Delux Rental, I don't really consider it as the original location because it was so small. It was in the basement of a restaurant. So they had 2 stairs that went down, and they had about 600 square feet. So that's when they had fans. They had home fans that people rented, box type fans, and TVs and some exercise equipment. But they couldn't really have any power equipment because the only way to get in the place was to go down the 2 stairs. So after about 2 years in business, they moved from that small location where they were renting fans about 2 miles away to a building that actually had some outdoor and outback parking, and they could start acquiring equipment at that point. And that's where the journey started. I think they moved there in 1969 to the Washtenaw location, and they stayed there until 1978. And then we've been at our current location since 78.
Scott, I know the equipment rental industry wasn't an initial goal or even on the radar from a young age, and although very similar to myself, like you said, you grew up in a rental store, and it was a lot of probably slave labor on weekends and school holidays and over the summer months working in the family rental store. But what initially drew you to continuing Delux after your father and the opportunity of entering the equipment rental industry as an owner-operator? Obviously, you were pushed into the industry and the business quite young, but what initially drew you to actually continuing the business?
I just think it's the personal relationships we develop with our customers and the fact that it's kind of a multifaceted business. We get to use our hands, we get to problem solve, we get to do some business, as far as the accounting and stuff like that goes. So every day is different and every day is exciting. Some days you would give it to the first person that would take it. Believe me, you want it, you got it. But you get over that. And it's nice to be able to problem solve and to talk to people, and when they come in and they really don't know what they need to do, and you can refer them with this piece of equipment or suggest that and tell them how to use it and show them different sites they can go to and watch videos, and then when they come back and their project was successful, it's just such a sense of accomplishment, not just for yourself but for them too. And we've had people bring their kids in, and now those kids are bringing their kids in. So we're not only a multi-generational owners, we've had multi-generation family rents from us, and that's awesome too. So it's an exciting business, always changing, always doing something different.
Scott, you were quoted by saying, "Our secret sauce number one is our employees. We're a family-owned and operated business, and the majority of our employees are family. Everybody chips in and does what's needed to be done. We also get to know our customers' names. We know what they rent. We know where they live because we talk to them. We find out what's important to them." Scott, you put such an emphasis on people, relationships, and family, being a co-owner with your wife Susan, your brother Greg, and his son Paul, also working in the business. What do you see as the biggest contributors to the success of the company, approaching nearly 60 years in business servicing your local segment in Michigan?
Well, it is. I mean, we work with family, and family is hard to work with sometimes, and because you can't really, lay a licking on them if you need to, like people that aren't family, because you're going to be sitting across from them at Thanksgiving and Christmas, and you're interested in their kids. But we also pull together. I mean, when times get hard, when there's a lot of stress, everybody just bears down and they do what they have to do. They want to make sure they're successful, and we're successful. And Paul is my nephew. He is just incredible with people's names. It's unbelievable. You could come in and rent something, and in 5 years come back, and he would remember your name. And he'd remember what you rented. It's crazy. I've never seen anything quite like it. But we do talk to our customers. We're interested in them. We know that if they're not making money, then we're not making money. And with the switch to more contractors and more small landscapers, we understand that they're using our equipment to make money. And if they don't make money, then they're not going to be our customers much longer. So we're pretty good about working with them when something happens, and we give them the benefit of the doubt a lot. Most of the equipment's metered now anyway, so you pretty much know how much they use it. So if something comes up and they can't bring it back, and we really don't have it reserved, then we work with them. But if we do have it reserved, then it's like, hey, I can't lose the revenue, and you got to understand that. But that's part of working with them, and that's what's made us successful for 60 years, is we do build those relationships, and we foster them, and we love them.
Scott, you just expressed what you describe as the double-edged sword of working alongside family in the rental industry, the working alongside family every day being the best but also the worst part of your job owning a family-run rental store. How do you personally approach these working relationships with the family in the business, and what advice would you give to those who are working in a family-run rental store?
Well, I think you just have to be direct. That's probably the most respectful thing you can do for somebody. If you're not happy with the performance of some kind, and you're talking about it behind their backs to somebody else that's family, then more than likely it's going to get back to them that you're not happy about it. So personally, I just approach it with, we're doing this, and I don't really think that's the way we should do it, and direct, never condescending or anything like that. But it's the direct approach. And we're also, pretty quick to tell people they're doing a good job too. It's not just when they're doing a bad job. It's also, there's a relationship there that allows us to congratulate them for a job well done. And then, they know when I come to them and say we need to improve this or that it's coming from an honest place.
Scott, you've been on quite the journey so far with the American Rental Association over the past years, with Delux Rentals being an ARA member since 1972, stepping in as the ARA Region 5 Director from 2017 to 2020, working with the ARA Government Affairs Committee, and being the American Rental Association's State of Michigan's President for many years. Scott, you very much prioritise your industry involvement and donating an immense amount of time to the growth of the equipment rental industry and for the American Rental Association for members. Even now, with your wife Susan taking over the State of Michigan's presidency role, you mentioned that being involved in the ARA Board of Directors has always helped you further your knowledge of the equipment rental industry and the events rental industry, with the ARA Board being comprised of a group of people who are extremely committed to the improvement of the industry. That you've always enjoyed every meeting conversation because you've always learnt something that you can take back to your business. Scott, how has your journey with the American Rental Association contributed to the success of Delux Rentals, your personal success and your development along the way?
Well, personal development, let's start with that. It's very satisfying to volunteer. I've volunteered my whole life, not just with ARA, but I've done some other volunteer stuff, coached Little League, and worked at a VA hospital as a volunteer. And so it's just something that's always been important to me. It's something that I feel you got to give back. You got to give back to your community. You got to give back to your industry. You got to give back just to be a good human being. So when I started with the ARA of Michigan, I did it for selfish reasons because I heard they were going to try to attack our personal property tax that we pay in Michigan. And I wanted to be a part of that. I heard my dad talking about that, 50 years worth of my dad talking about it, and nothing had ever been done with it. So I jumped on board at that point, and we made a run at it, but it wasn't a very successful run at it. So we ended up in the same category as everybody else for the past 50 years, not accomplishing our goal. But working with them, I just had a natural desire to stay on the board. When I became president and I joined the Government Affairs Committee, then we started talking about our problem with the taxes at a national level. And we actually started working on it through the Government Affairs Program. And it was 7 years worth of trying, and we finally got a bill passed that relieved us of that tax. We got that passed. It started January 1st of 2023. So it was very beneficial for a lot of people, and it's just a passion. I mean, that helped Deluxe Rental for sure. We were paying, a ridiculous amount of personal property tax. It exceeded what we were paying for our building tax by a general, almost twice as much. And so now we just paid our personal property tax before we left, and now because you still own computers and you still own office furniture, and there are things that are personal property, but without the rental inventory being included in that, our winter bill was $216. So that was a big win for everybody in the state of Michigan. And just knowing that I was involved with that, it's a good feeling.
Sense of pride for sure.
It is, yeah. It's a lot of work.
Scott, being here in New Orleans for the 2024 ARA show, I'd love to hear your excitement for the days ahead. I know you've already had a busy schedule over the last couple of days, but finishing up your stint as the ARA Board Chair this year, I'd love you to give us an overview of your year so far, your recent relationship with the newly appointed ARA President Steve Mao, and a recap of your work with the association leading into this year's show.
Well, we worked together as a team for 3 years. So you start your journey with ARA at the officers level as the president-elect, then you move to president, and then you move to board chair. So I've been working with Steve, and Steve was actually on the board when I was Region 5 director. So I've been working with Steve for 7 years now. So our relationship is very strong. We support each other. We have conversations around what we think something should look like, and then we always take it to the board. We're not doing anything outside of the board action, but we agree on a lot of things. We both have single stores. His is a little bit bigger than mine, but we've got single stores, so we've got the same issues that single store operators have. You either make money at your single store or you don't. You don't have other places that you can bring income in from. So we share that, and it's been a fun 3 years, but it's time to go. They tell you it's 3 years when you join. So this is kind of a farewell tour. So instead of really having a ton of work to do, which I don't have a ton of work to do this week, I can go to all the different events that I'm scheduled to go to and just relax and enjoy it, So I'm very excited to get down on the floor. We always spend Monday and Tuesday. Monday we go down and we look for things that we know we need to buy. We look at the different models and the different manufacturers. Tuesday we buy stuff. And then Wednesday, we use that day to look to the future. And we start looking at things that we don't normally look at. And could this fit? Do we have a spot for this in our rental fleet? And, now that we don't pay personal property tax on everything that we buy, we can buy a bigger piece of equipment and set it on our lot. Now the tax that we're paying is based on use. Every time it goes out, we charge a tax that the consumer pays. So now we can sit something on our lot and not have to worry that it's costing us a bunch of tax money, until we can build a market for it. So we're looking to the future on Wednesday, and hopefully we'll find something that'll help us.
So pretty a sad but sweet feeling wrapping up your journey. I'm sure Steve he owes you a stiff drink on the Wednesday night after you guys wrap up the show. But Scott, you're extremely passionate about the dedicated programs that the ARA offers for members with the equipment certification program, mobile elevating work platform certification, student membership programs, and you also put a major focus on continuing these programs even throughout the COVID period. What have been some success stories from these programs, and how have you seen these programs develop over your last more than 3 years now, sitting on multiple ARA boards, and how has this affected members and people like yourself in a single store location?
Well, we do have a lot of certification programs now, and they're advancing safety is really the best way to put it. And they're also required in the United States, but not everybody follows the requirements. So we had Train the Trainer with the aerial lift training, and we were hoping to do 300 by the end of last year. We actually, I think, did 389. So we're way above, what we projected there. I think the biggest gains have really been in workforce development, and we set up a jobs board, and we were just talking about the jobs board at the meeting yesterday. They have received over 36,000 applications on the job board. Not all of them match exactly what needs to be done, but there's 36,000 people who turned in applications to the job board. And that was something that during COVID cost the association money. I mean, it was a cost. And we decided to go ahead and fund everything all the way through. And we also started a student membership. The student membership has over 2,000 people in it now. We went strong in women in rental. They're way over 1,000 women that are registered. The Young Professional Network is 15 or 16, 17. They have over 2,000 maybe. Excuse me, it is 2,000. So all of those programs were full speed ahead through COVID, and all of those are the future of rental. We can talk about the certifications. That's great. You're certifying people that you get into your organizations, but you got to get them in first. And with the student memberships, and with women being more involved in rental, and all of the job portals and the applications, that's where the future of rental is in the workers. So we're attracting them, we're getting them in, we're training them, we're making them safer, and we're showing them that it's a career. It's not just a job. And that was our goal when I started 7 years ago, and it'll be the goal for the next 10 years. It's not going to change because you're constantly having to train and update. But that is where my focus was, and I can honestly say we've done some amazing things.
Scott, an amazing part of our industry is the connections that you can gain, grow, and develop. For myself, gaining yourself and Susan is not only amazing international working connections, but getting the opportunity to generate some great friendships and memories with the both of you, and cultivating, like I said, a friendship. But Scott, how has the culture of the equipment rental industry played in your life satisfaction, your career development, and the trajectory of your professional life?
Well, I think that the culture is one of the things that attracted me to stay. We've talked about some of the others earlier, but it's just a very warm culture. I mean, being the president of ARA, being the board chair of ARA, we travel a lot across the country, and we go to a lot of store visits, and everybody is they treat you like family. You walk in, and they just share everything with you. They want you to understand their business. They want to tell you their success stories, and you get to listen to their success stories, and you get to think, well, they're pretty similar to us, and they're doing it this way, and maybe I could take some of this back with me and institute, because there's very creative individuals in the rental industry, and that's probably the best times that I've had, and my favorite part of being the chair and the president was the ability to travel and meet so many great people. I mean, they're all great people, and they are friendly and warm, and it's been fun.
You're just touching on, obviously, this developed network that you've had with ARA members across the nation. Scott, in a recent issue of the ARA Rental Management magazine, you said that networking with people inside the rental industry is the greatest. Discussing common issues with people in the industry helps. It really helps. Getting involved in the rental community is the best business decision I've ever made. May you give us an example on how your developed network, like we've said, with other ARA members across the nation has helped you specifically navigate an issue within your business?
Okay, a specific example, I think, is when we were going to switch computer systems. I'm not going to name any names, obviously, but we were becoming increasingly dissatisfied with the system that we had, and being able to call on my network of people and actually go to their stores and see what they were doing and see how the computer system was working for them, tracking inventory, doing the accounts and the accounts payable, and was a huge help. I mean, we were actually able to go out and look at 4 or 5 different systems and then make a decision based on the one that we thought was going to work best for us. But without that networking and without talking to them, I mean, you get kind of into their business and you ask them what kind of software they're running, and people will tell you. So I knew, well, who was running what, and I knew that if I called them, that they would let me come into their stores and they'd show me everything they could about it.
You got to try before you buy.
Right, and we took advantage of that. And we've also done that with equipment. When we're thinking about adding a piece of equipment, we'll go and we'll talk to the owner and we'll ask what the ROI on it, how they're doing, how often it goes out, the maintenance, the issues they have with it. And people will just tell you, it's been great for us or it hasn't been that great for us, and this is why. And so it does help buying decisions as well. Yeah.
It's a very unique part of our industry is that openness. A lot of other industries, talking to a competitor on a specific piece of equipment or something they're implementing in regards to technology is very unheard of in other industries. It's exactly. But Scott, now being involved in the equipment rental industry for quite some time, what do you wish you knew when you first started? In those early days, looking back, what would you have told your younger self, and the best piece of advice that you would give to prospective or future ARA members joining the equipment rental industry?
Just relax. I think that would be the first thing. I mean, problems happen. Equipment breaks. People do things with it they're not supposed to. And it can be very stressful when you know it's a money-making piece of equipment and you know you need it and it's broken and it's going to be 2 weeks before it gets fixed. And, you know, I guess what I would say is just take a deep breath and relax, because it's going to happen. And there's not an equipment company in the United States that doesn't have equipment failures, that doesn't have breakdowns, that either is customer driven or it's just product driven or it's just happening, you know, and you can't do anything about it. The only thing you can do about it is plan ahead, you know, be ready, have parts on hand that are pretty common parts that go bad, so you don't have to wait on that, and, you know, do the best that you can to get it fixed and get it back in service. But yeah, just relax, because I was pretty tense years ago. I mean, I've relaxed some now, but you got to enjoy it. You got to enjoy the ride. If you don't, why would you do it?
Scott, over the past couple of years, like you mentioned, you've been able and lucky enough to visit so many rental stores across the nation that you've noticed all rental companies are facing similar issues with not being able to find key employees, changes in technology, like you mentioned, and how hard it is to simply keep up with it, changes in government regulations, supply chain, and much, much more. But having these common issues also allows the association to tailor all of these amazing programs for future and existing members. What are the main issues that you're personally experiencing in 2024 as an owner-operator, and what are you seeing rental companies are encountering over the last 12 months here in the United States, and what do you see on the horizon for the equipment rental industry here in America?
Well, the rental industry is strong here in America. It is strong. I think we're predicting at least 5% growth for the next 3 years, which is considerable growth for sure. The problems that we're having are just almost everything that you've mentioned. I mean, staffing is a huge issue. Key employees is a huge issue. Drivers, mechanics, can't find them. I mean, they're very hard to find. And that's why ARA is working on certifications and some of the other key components of our educational system, because you can bring somebody in that really doesn't know, and you can develop their skills through Rental U and through some of the certifications. So yeah, having common problems does help us focus on some things. But we've also got equipment shortages still. The cost of equipment is spiraling somewhat, even though the backlog of equipment is coming down and delivery times have been shortened to 5 or 6 months compared to 2 or 3 years. All depends. So I mean, if you're looking for some of the big lifts, you're not going to get any for a couple of years still. So that seems to be a problem, that we still have got a supply chain issue going on. But between the supply chain issue, which is lightning, not being able to find key employees, and pay has also gone up dramatically since COVID. It's a little bit harder to make it all work, but we're all in the same boat, so those are the issues that have been worked on.
Scott, throughout your life and time in the industry, who have been some of the main contributors, people that you have seen as a mentoring figure that have helped develop your personal success, develop your business in Delux Rentals, and who have been some of those main contributors?
Well, my father was a big contributor to my success for sure. He always took the time to try and explain to me what he was doing and how he was doing it. So it almost looks like it's instinctual to me now. Sue always says you have a way of knowing what's going to work, but that's actually from years of experience. It's not an instinct or anything else. It's just learning from my father who taught me. And there's a guy named Dave Gill that was on the Michigan board. Dave's no longer with us, but he had just an unbelievable faith in me. I don't know where he got it, but he said, you're going to do things, and he was right. And he kind of guided me into government affairs. He said, come on, let's go and do the caucuses and do this and do that. And he was quite a mentor, just a single store owner too. But he really gave me the confidence to go ahead and jump in, and I did. Water was great.
Scott, after your many dedicated years with the ARA, running your business, travelling all over the nation and internationally as well, what are your plans for the future? What's next for Scott Irwin and Delux Rentals? And I hope there's a return trip back to Australia on the cards.
I hope so too. Yes, I hope there's a return trip. But I'm not going to quit volunteering. I've already talked to the Michigan board, and I'm going to do their legislative liaison work. We've got an issue with fuel now where we can't sell fuel by the gallon because there's a law in Michigan that does not allow that unless you have certified pumps. And we don't have certified pumps. None of the smaller shops have certified pumps. So now it's you have to sell them a full tank or nothing. So if somebody comes back and they're a gallon or two short of what they should be, then you got to charge them $150 for a tank of fuel. And that's the only way that we can sell fuel right now. So that's a major problem. And the law's been on the books since 1938. And all of a sudden, they're deciding they need to enforce it in rental stores. So that's another passion that I've got. Hopefully we can get something worked out. We're not going to do anything this year, but we're going to pick it up again next year. And, you know, if ARA calls and asks me to do something, I'm sure I won't say no, because I haven't said no to anything they've asked me to do. So hopefully there might be some parts at some of these programs that I get to read or do something. But I won't stop volunteering.
So even though 2024 is the end, it's not really the end, is it?
It's never the end. No, I'll keep working. I'll keep working to help improve the industry, because it's an industry that's given me so much that I feel like it's something I need to give back to on a regular basis.
Whilst you're still young, Scott, I think you should keep going. But Scott, you mentioned before that you're a problem solver, approaching your business with the customer satisfaction and customer success at the forefront. What do you enjoy most about your role, and what keeps you in the rental industry day to day?
It's just the personal relationships, for sure. That's the part that I like the most about my role and our role, because we're all pretty much customer focused and driven, and we just really like the rental business. I mean, it's just something that gets in your blood, I think, and you can't shake it. So yeah, there are days that aren't the greatest, but there are not very many of those anymore. And we just love to talk to people and problem solve with them. I mean, it's unbelievable. We're starting now to ask them to bring pictures of their projects when they're done, when they start, when they finish. And we're putting a board together to have projects that people have done using our equipment. And that gives them a sense of pride. It gives us a sense of satisfaction to know that their project's done well, and just helping people. I mean, we do a lot with the community as well, and that, you know, that's something that we feel you have to give back to, and we do.
Scott, I know that as a child, the dream was becoming a professional baseball player or a golfer. But as you grew a little bit older, you realised the 5'6" guy probably wasn't destined to make the pros, but you've always enjoyed cooking, so you looked at a possible career as a chef. But in the end, the rental industry kept calling you back. Scott, over the years and developing yourself along the way, what's your personal definition of success?
My personal is if you're happy. I mean, there's a million different definitions of success. You know, we're blessed with a very nice home. We've got food to eat. We've got a business that sustains us and other people. And my thought of success is that I'm happy, and the people that work for me are happy, and the people that work for me can afford houses and cars and food. And, so they're also successful. I think that for me, success is not being the best at what you do, better than everybody else. I think success for me is bringing the people that work with you along on the ride, so they can also have a successful and happy life.
Scott, thank you for coming on today. I'm so glad that we got to catch up so soon. I didn't think I'd be seeing you guys so soon, especially here in America. So extremely grateful, have immense gratitude to not only yourself but Susan on the amazing memories that we've shared. And I'm sure that you'll be back to Australia soon. Mate, thank you so much, and for your wisdom, your time, and enjoy wrapping up your stint here in New Orleans.
Well, thank you. I am going to enjoy the next few days, and it was great seeing you too. Looking forward to getting back to Australia. Maybe one day you can make it to Michigan.